Consider for a moment the architecture of your own consciousness as the sun dips below the horizon and the world is surrendered to the quiet dominion of night. In that liminal space between the final waking thought and the first unremembered breath of sleep, a threshold is crossed, not merely into rest, but into a realm of unparalleled potential. We have been taught to view dreams as phantoms, as neural static, the mind's whimsical recycling of the day's debris. But this is a profound and limiting misconception, a story we tell ourselves to make the inexplicable seem manageable. What if instead, the dreaming state is the most sophisticated and ancient technology of perception we possess? What if the sprawling, often nonsensical landscapes of our slumber are not confinements of the skull, but are, in fact, the very fabric of other dimensions, woven from threads of consciousness itself, awaiting a conscious navigator? This is the invitation of the secret portal in your dreams, to move from being a passive passenger on a chaotic river of imagery to becoming the lucid captain of a vessel capable of sailing the multidimensional seas of existence. This journey begins with a recalibration of understanding, a quiet rebellion against the mundane explanation. We live our waking lives within a tightly negotiated consensus reality, a world defined by agreed-upon rules of physics, time, and causality. It is a stable, predictable stage, but it is only one room in an infinite mansion of being. The door to the other rooms is not hidden in some distant galaxy or locked behind a physical apparatus. It is woven into the very essence of your awareness when it is unmoored from its daily anchors. Each night, as you close your eyes, you are not shutting down. You are powering up a different mode of perception. The portal is not a thing to be found, but a state to be recognized. A shift in the frequency of the self, akin to a radio dial finally tuning into a station that has been broadcasting all along, its signals masked by the static of waking thought. To speak of accessing other dimensions is not to engage in mere science fiction, but to acknowledge a deeper, more enigmatic layer of cosmology. Dimensions, in this sense, are not just additional spatial coordinates, but entire spectra of experience, realities that operate on fundamentally different principles. Some may be realms of pure emotion, where a feeling like sorrow or joy has topography and climate. Others might be libraries of Akashic record, where the past and potential futures exist as tangible, navigable landscapes. Yet others could be meeting grounds for consciousnesses unbound by physical form. The dreaming mind, unfettered by the body's literal interpretations, is the perfect instrument for translating these subtle, hyperdimensional frequencies into a language we can experience, a language of symbol, narrative, and visceral sensation. The surreal and the impossible become not errors of perception, but accurate translations of a reality that operates by a different, more fluid set of rules. The key that unlocks this portal is a spark of awareness, a moment of profound metacognition where the dreamer suddenly knows that they are dreaming. This phenomenon, known as lucid dreaming, is the first and most crucial step, but it is merely the key turning in the lock. The true art lies in pushing the door open and stepping through with intention. It requires a cultivation of will within a state that is inherently fluid, a focusing of consciousness within a realm that thrives on its dissipation. It is the ultimate act of co-creation where you are both the explorer and the architect, the witness and the witnessed. This is not an escape from reality, but an expansion of it. It is the reclamation of a birthright, the ability to consciously participate in the full spectrum of your existence, to dialogue with the universe in a language more profound and ancient than words, and to return from these voyages not with mere stories, but with transformative insights that ripple back into your waking life, altering its very foundation. The portal awaits, not in the stars, but in the quiet darkness behind your own eyelids. The architecture of this nocturnal journey rests upon several foundational pillars, not as rigid doctrines, but as flowing currents that converge to form the river of understanding. The first and most vital of these is the nature of consciousness itself, which we must reimagine not as a byproduct of the brain, but as the fundamental substrate of all that is. The brain, in this grander view, is not a generator, but a receiver, a filter, a magnificent instrument finely tuned to translate the infinite bandwidth of existence into the narrow, manageable stream of waking life. It is a survival tool, par excellence, designed to focus our awareness on the immediate physical world, the threat, the reward, the social cue. But when we sleep, the grip of this filter loosens. The dial turns, and other stations, once faint and ignored, swell in volume. To consciously access other dimensions is to learn to manipulate this dial yourself, to willfully adjust the receiver of your consciousness to perceive realities that are always present, always broadcasting, but typically experienced only as the faintest whisper in the chaos of a dream. This is the core theme. Your awareness is a luminous, malleable entity, and the dream state is its native habitat for cosmic exploration. Interwoven with this is the profound concept of intention as the rudder in these vast waters. A lucid dream, where one simply becomes aware of the dream state, can be a playground of fantasy, a realm of fleeting wish fulfillment. But to use it as a portal requires a shift from awareness to purpose. It is the difference between finding yourself suddenly aboard a ship and knowing how to plot a course for a specific, distant shore. This intention is not a brute force of will. It is a subtle, focused yearning, a question posed to the universe with the entirety of your being. Before sleep, you must plant the seed of destination. It is a silent command, a heartfelt request to the deeper self. Tonight, I wish to understand the nature of time, or I seek to journey to a dimension of pure healing light, or I will to find a guide. This intention acts as a homing beacon, structuring the chaotic potential of the dream space around a central magnetic pull. The portal does not appear at random, it answers a call. The vibrational frequency of your conscious intent resonates with a corresponding dimension, and the dreamscape morphs to become the bridge. This leads to the third guiding principle, the law of symbolic resonance. The language of these deeper realms is not linear or literal. It is the language of myth, of metaphor, of archetype. A dimension of pure knowledge may not appear as a library with books, but you may find yourself in a vast forest where each leaf contains a complete history, or floating in a river whose currents are melodies containing entire philosophies. The subconscious mind is the master translator in this endeavor, converting hyperdimensional information into forms the conscious mind can comprehend and integrate. A menacing figure chasing you in a dream might be the literal manifestation of an anxiety, but in a conscious journey, it could be the symbolic guardian of a threshold you must understand and integrate to pass through. The entities you meet, the landscapes you traverse, are both real within their own context and profound symbolic representations of the energy and information of that dimension. Learning to interpret this symbolic language, not with the waking mind's logic, but with the heart's intuition, is essential. You are learning to read the cosmos in the mother tongue of creation. Finally, underpinning all of this is the theme of the paradoxical self, the simultaneous experience of being a localized point of awareness, the you that you know, and a boundless, interconnected field of consciousness. When you journey through the portal, you are not a tourist visiting a foreign land. You are that land, experiencing a facet of itself. The guide you meet is also you. The celestial city of light is a structure of your own higher consciousness, and the primordial void you might float within is your source. This is the ultimate cosmic joke and the most profound truth. The seeker is the destination. The exploration of other dimensions is, in its deepest sense, an exploration of the infinite rooms within your own being. You are not accessing something separate from yourself. You are remembering, experiencing, and reintegrating aspects of your own vast, multidimensional nature that the waking world encourages you to forget. The portal, therefore, is the mirror, and the journey is a homecoming to the totality of who you are. Indeed. Let us delve into the narratives that give form to these abstract truths, for it is through story that the soul comprehends the architecture of the cosmos. There is a tale, whispered in the silent language of the inner self, of a seeker who yearned to understand the nature of time. Each night, upon achieving lucidity, they would demand of the dream, "Show me time." And each night, the dream would oblige with literal and ultimately hollow representations, giant clockwork mechanisms grinding in a void, hourglasses the size of mountains, calendars whose pages blew away in a cosmic wind. The seeker grew frustrated, for these were merely echoes of waking concepts, not the living truth they sought. One night, in a state of exhausted humility, the seeker simply posed a question into the fabric of the dream. How does it feel to be time? The response was not an image, but a transformation. The dreamer became a vast, silent river. But this was no ordinary river. They were simultaneously every molecule of water at the river's source, every swirling eddy in its middle reaches, and every drop of water merging with the great ocean at its end. They were the rain falling from the sky to replenish the source, and the evaporation rising from the ocean to become the cloud. There was no past, present, or future, only a single, eternal, and infinitely complex isness. They were not observing time, they had become its substance. The lesson was clear. To know a dimension, one must not observe it from a distance, but invite a sacred exchange, a merging of consciousness. The portal does not open to a spectator, it opens to a participant. Another narrative speaks of a woman who carried a profound and ancient sorrow within her, a weight she could not name or locate in her waking history. Her intention, set nightly, was to find healing. In her lucid dreams, she began to find herself in a vast, derelict mansion, its rooms choked with dust and forgotten furniture, its windows shuttered. She knew instinctively this mansion was the architecture of her own inner world. For many nights, she simply wandered the hallways, aware she was dreaming, but feeling powerless to change the oppressive atmosphere. Then she remembered the law of resonance. Instead of trying to force light into the darkness, she sat in a grand, dusty ballroom and began to hum a melody she did not know she knew, a wordless lullaby of comfort. As she hummed, a soft golden light began to emanate from her own heart, pushing back the shadows not with violence but with gentle persistence. Doors that were once locked swung open on their own. In one small, cold room at the top of the house, she found a child, a version of herself, curled in a corner. The dimension she had accessed was not a place outside herself, but the very real, energetic landscape of her own emotional history. By bringing conscious, loving awareness into that space, she did not destroy the mansion. She renovated it, room by room, transforming a prison of memory into a palace of integrated experience. And then there is the allegory of the Mirror City. Many travelers speak of arriving there, a metropolis of breathtaking beauty, where the buildings are made of light and sound, and the citizens are beings of pure consciousness, radiating complex emotions like colors. One dreamer, a scientist in waking life, arrived there and was overwhelmed by the need to understand, to map, to quantify. He approached a radiant being and asked, "What are the laws of physics here? What is your government structure? What is your purpose?" The being simply smiled, a gesture that conveyed infinite patience, and pointed to a great, central spire made of what looked like liquid crystal. The dreamer traveled to it and entered, only to find himself standing in the exact center of his own hometown, looking at his own reflection in the window of a shop. The Mirror City was not a destination to be analyzed, but a reflection to be recognized. Every being he met was a facet of his own potential consciousness. Every soaring tower was a structure of his own unexpressed creativity. The dimension he sought to study was the very essence of his interconnectedness with all things. The portal had led him on the ultimate journey, a circuit that brought him directly back to the profound and miraculous truth of his own nature, seen through a cosmic lens. These symbolic narratives are not mere fantasies. They are the maps, drawn in the language of the soul, that chart the territory of the unseen. They teach us that the journey through the secret portal is one of dialogue, not monologue, of integration, not conquest, of sacred reciprocity, not selfish exploration. The grandeur of these visions, the vastness of these inner cosmos, might seem to exist in a realm separate from the mundane details of our daily lives, the morning coffee, the commute, the endless list of tasks. Yet this perceived separation is the final and most persistent illusion to dissolve. The true measure of a journey through the secret portal is not the wonders witnessed in the dream, but the resonance of that experience in the quiet moments of your waking hours. It is the seamless integration of the cosmic into the personal, the eternal into the temporal, that marks the successful navigator. This is where the esoteric becomes exoteric. where the flight of the soul returns to ground itself in the earth of everyday existence, bearing gifts of transformation. Consider the practical implication of having navigated the river of time, of having felt its simultaneous source, flow, and mouth. How does this alter your relationship with the clock on the wall, the deadline looming, the anxiety over a future yet unwritten, or a past that cannot be changed? You return not with a philosophical concept, but with a cellular memory of eternity. The rush and pressure of chronological time begin to feel like a superficial game, agreed upon fiction you need not be entirely enslaved by. This knowing allows for a profound patience and a deep presence. A project delayed is no longer a failure in linear progression, but merely a different point in the river's course. A moment of joy can be fully inhabited, not because it will last, but because you have known its essence to be eternal. This is a practical superpower in a world frantic with haste, the ability to operate within time while being anchored in the timeless. Or reflect on the integration of the renovated inner mansion, the healing of that ancient sorrow. The practical effect is not that the memory of pain is erased, but that its power to dictate your emotional weather is dissolved. You may still feel sadness, but it is a clean sadness, a passing cloud in the vast sky of your being, not a perpetual storm trapped in the walls of your psyche. This translates into tangible resilience. A criticism at work does not spiral into a week of self-doubt because you have already cleaned the room where that old wound resided. A personal loss is met with authentic grief, but not with a collapse of your entire foundation, for you have reinforced that foundation with conscious love. Your relationships become cleaner, for you are no longer projecting unmet childhood needs onto your partners or friends. You engage from a place of greater wholeness, and in doing so, you give them permission to do the same. This is the real-world alchemy, turning the lead of trapped historical pain into the gold of present-moment emotional freedom. And what of the mirror city, the revelation that the other is also the self? The implication here is a radical, quiet, and profound shift in empathy. When you speak to a colleague, a stranger, even someone you perceive as an adversary, there is a subtle, underlying recognition, not intellectual, but experiential, that you are looking at a reflection of a consciousness not entirely separate from your own. This does not mean becoming a doormat or agreeing with harmful behavior. Rather, it allows you to respond to situations from a place of clarity and compassion instead of reactive judgment. You begin to see the unmet need behind the anger, the fear behind the arrogance, the cry for love behind the isolation. In your professional life, this fosters better leadership and collaboration. In your personal life, it deepens intimacy and dissolves conflict. You navigate the social dimension with a newfound grace because you are aware of the deeper, invisible connections that bind all beings, a truth you did not just read about, but one you have lived and felt in the very core of your dreaming self. The practice itself, the nightly ritual of setting intention and cultivating awareness, becomes a grounding force. It instills a discipline of the mind that bleeds into your days. The ability to focus a wandering thought in a dream, to assert, "I will remember my purpose" amidst a chaotic narrative, is the same muscle used to focus on a complex task at work or to remain present in a difficult conversation. You are training the deepest faculties of your attention. Furthermore, the requirement to release attachment to specific outcomes, to pose a question to the universe without demanding a specific answer, cultivates a healthy detachment and openness to surprise that makes you more adaptable, more creative, and more innovative in your waking problem solving. You learn to cooperate with the universe rather than struggle against it. Thus, the dreamer returns from their voyages not as an esoteric specialist, but as a more integrated, resilient, compassionate, and effective human being, their feet firmly on the ground, their head having touched the stars, and their heart holding the wisdom of both realms. And so we arrive at the quiet harbor after our voyage, the contours of the known world now forever altered by the maps we have drawn in the dark. This exploration of the secret portal is not an end in itself, not a final destination to be reached and catalogued, but a beginning, a fundamental recalibration of what it means to be alive, to be conscious, to be a participant in the infinite unfolding of reality. The journey through the dreamscape and into the dimensions that beckon beyond is, in its most profound essence, a journey of return. It is a circular pilgrimage that brings you back to your waking life, not with souvenirs from a distant land, but with the irreversible knowledge that the distant land is, and always has been, right here. The portal does not lead out, it leads in, and in that inward descent through the layers of self, you unexpectedly find the entire cosmos waiting, not as a cold external void, but as a living, breathing intimacy that you are part of. You have not been a tourist in the multiverse, you have been remembering your citizenship within it. This is the transformational call, not to a specific action, but to a state of being. It is an invitation to live your life as a dialogue between worlds, to allow the wonder you felt floating in the river of time to soften the hard edges of your schedule, to let the love that renovated the dusty mansion of your heart flow into your daily interactions, to permit the awe of the mirror city to infuse your gaze upon every person you meet, recognizing in them the same bewildering, beautiful struggle for light that you know in yourself. The call is to become a bridge, a conscious synapse connecting the sublime with the ordinary, ensuring that the wisdom of the depths is not lost in the sunlight, but is instead woven into the very fabric of your choices, your words, and your silences. You are asked to become an ambassador of the infinite in the realm of the finite, carrying the echo of eternity into your very human moments. The greatest transformation, therefore, is the collapse of the hierarchy of realities. The dream state is not lesser than the waking one. The dimension of pure emotion is not more spiritual than the dimension of your living room. They are a continuum, a single spectrum of experience perceived through different filters. Your power lies in your ability to consciously move along that spectrum, to appreciate the unique gifts and lessons of each frequency. The goal is wholeness, to embrace the full range of your existence without denying any part of it. To be able to pay your bills with focused attention, and then close your eyes and journey to the library of Akashic records, understanding that both are valid, both are real, and both are expressions of the one consciousness that you are. This is the ultimate integration, to live without schism, to heal the artificial wound between the mystic and the mundane. So, as you stand at the threshold of your own nights, the invitation is clear. It is an invitation to cultivate a profound curiosity, to approach the darkness not with a desire to control, but with a willingness to converse, to ask questions of the vast intelligence that you are part of, and to listen for the answers in the language of symbol and sensation. It is a call to courage, to be willing to meet the guardians at the threshold, to renovate the rooms within yourself that you have kept locked, and to gaze into the mirror of creation until you recognize your own face in every reflection. The secret portal is open. It has always been open. It is the birthright of your awareness. The journey does not require special tools or esoteric passwords. It begins with a simple yet revolutionary shift in perception, a single intentional breath taken in the direction of the infinite as you surrender to sleep, trusting that you are not disappearing into nothingness, but awakening into everything.